Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you are blessed. It is a beautiful Shabbat day, and I hope you guys are reaping your blessings for keeping the Shabbat. I hope you guys have awoken, and you don't have to prepare yourself food. You don't have to go anywhere today. I hope you are truly blessed. There's only one day that is blessed, and it's called the Sabbath day. And this lesson I've had available for like a couple of days, and I probably should be mad at myself because I haven't made it to this. But better late than never. And so, guys, when we're looking and we're seeing people of this nature, if you haven't guessed already, these are the people from back in the day who the Christians have almost a fable. It's not quite a fable, but it is they don't understand who the Pharisees and the Sadducees are. Because everybody in Christianity believes that the Pharisees and Sadducees were a bunch of law keepers, that they were in and doing the laws and statutes of our Creator and keeping everything. But unfortunately, these people weren't. In fact, their doctrines are really, really different from the doctrines of our Creator. And so when our Messiah came, it was just like oil and water. These guys did not get along, and our Messiah was completely browbeating these evil people. And when I say evil people, these people are extremely evil, not only for their actions and their deeds, but their doctrine. Their doctrine is very bad. It looks down upon the poor people. It gives more. There's a tremendous amount of things. And we've gone over the discussions where in the Pharisees and Sadducees, their own laws, they're outside of the laws of God. You have to wash your hands before you eat bread. You have to wash your hands before you eat. You wash your dishes a certain way. You do a bunch of other stuff, right? And these are the laws, statutes, and commands the Pharisees lived under. And these are not the laws, statutes, and commands of our Creator. Because if they were, then they'd be documented, and our Messiah wouldn't come down and be crushing these guys for keeping stuff outside of it. And so we have to get in alignment with the laws, statutes, and commands of our Creator. And the only way to do that is by reading the Torah. The only way to know what the heart, mind, and soul of our Creator is by seeking His face, by reading the Torah. You're not going to get it by being spoon-fed lessons from people behind pulpits who are being paid. Right? If you're in a 501c3 Sunday worshiping church where your preacher is being paid for a lesson on Sunday, that's his job, right? And he's got his job wrong because first and foremost, he's leading you guys into the pits of hell because we're not supposed to be keeping a Sabbath on the first day. Saturday, the seventh day, is where we are supposed to be keeping the laws of God by keeping the Sabbath. And so if your preacher is spoon feeding you guys verse after verse, and that's one thing about the Christian religion is they will save you or damn you by one or two verses, right? They do not use the entire Bible. They do not use the entire New Testament. They only use verses here and there. And then if you challenge them on any of this stuff, they have no idea what to do. They default, they tell you you're a heretic, or they default, they're like, oh no, I don't want to keep these laws of God. Well, these Pharisees and Sadducees, I mean, this is not how our Creator told us to dress up, even the priests and things of this nature. These guys in their own little sect, right? They dress differently. They really look down their nose at people, right? If you know those people look down at you and you're lesser than them and they think you're lesser than them, well, these are these people. They completely believe that if you're not in their religious sect, that you are outside of this. And we're going to go over a couple of these things. The Sadducees believe that they don't even believe anything that's in the law. And it's incredible that people followed them and people still follow them. Here's a couple of things here, not a lot, but this is a couple of differences between the Pharisees and Sadducees. The Pharisees were called the religious conservatives, and whereas the Sadducees were the religious liberals. The Pharisees acknowledged all of the Torah, but they also acknowledged all of the rest of their Torah, right? Respected by the common man, controlled synagogue of Galilee, and then the Sadducees, they despised by the common man, controlled temple and Jerusalem. That's just a very scraping of the top of this. These people have a tremendous amount of different doctrines, and we'll go over that here shortly when we get into this lesson. And guys, for those who are listening in, and by the way, my name is Jason, and this is the Yahoo and the Torah channel. I am one of 5 gardeners that we have here, and we are pleased and we are proud. We are so happy that Yahuwah has given us a chance and an opportunity to allow us to help him in any way that we possibly can. We are honored more than anything. And, you know, these are all life lessons, and I didn't just understand this stuff. I just didn't come to the learning of the stuff. It's taken years and years and years. We've been in Torah 7 or 8 years, I believe. We've been reading the Torah probably every single day of somewhere in the Torah for every one of those years. We've probably read verses, chapters. We go all over the Bible. We go from the front to the back and all over the place. And the lesson has to do with, the first part of this lesson has to do with this right here. And everybody's heard the very first one that we're going to go into. But I'm going to show you guys some stuff that you probably have never seen. And I'm going to explain some stuff that hasn't been seen. Mark 12:1. You guys have heard this before, but let's go and see if we can find something else. Let's see if the Holy Spirit will talk to us, and we can get this down and understand what our Creator has meant for us, even as the New Testament is written. Mark 12:1. And he began to speak unto them in parables. This is our Messiah, right? And our Messiah talks to people in parables because we aren't smart enough to figure this stuff out. A certain man planted a vineyard and set a hedge about it and dug a place for the wine fat and built a tower and let it out to husbandmen and went into a far country. Now, I don't know what this word husbandman is, and I do now, but I will show you guys how I figured this out. And at the season, he sent to the husbandman a servant that he might receive from the husbandman of the fruit of the vineyard. Now, I did not understand what the heck a husbandman was. And sometimes you have to go to different versions, right? Over on the left-hand side, I have the King. Over on the right-hand side, I have the NIV. And if we read this in the King, it's the same thing. It says, and let it out to the husbandman. What is a husbandman? You know, without having to look it up. If we look over here at the NIV, then it says, then he rented the vineyard to some farmers and moved to another place. Oh, okay. And then in verse 2, he says, at harvest time, he sent a servant to the tenants to collect from them some of the fruit of the vineyard. So we have tenants, and second time he calls them husbandmen, right? And so there's crazy translations all over the place. But to understand what we're talking about here is we are talking about, and you know, this parable isn't too hard to figure out, right? Our Creator, he built the earth, right? He built everything that we are here, right? He said, take care of this, multiply. And this whole parable is about our Messiah. Verse 3, and they caught him. And they beat him and sent him away, right? And so verse 2 is the husbandman, a servant, and he might receive from the husbandman of the fruit of the vineyard, right? The course of the year has gone. There is now plenty of grapes. There's all this stuff. And so the owner of the guy who had the vineyard sent his servants there and to get basically a profit. He needed to get some profit for this. Verse 3, and they caught him and beat him and sent him away empty. Verse 4, and again he sent unto them another servant. And at him they cast stones and wounded him in the head and sent him away shamefully handed. So yet we have another guy. So basically the first servant went back all wounded. Then he sent the second guy and they beat him up, right? They hit him in the head with stones. Verse 5, and again he sent another and they killed him and many others, beating some and killing some. Guys, these are over the years, the prophets, all the prophets have ended up dead. They've killed all the prophets. Everybody he sent, they beat up, right? If you have the message of truth, you usually get beat up for it. It's not something that people embrace, usually. Verse 6, having yet therefore one son, his well-beloved, he sent him also last unto them, saying, they will reverence my son. But those husbandmen said among themselves, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and the inheritance shall be ours. And they took him and killed him and cast him out of the vineyard. Verse 9, what shall therefore the Adonai, the master of the vineyard, do? He will come and destroy the husbandmen, the farmers, and will give the vineyard unto others. And have ye not read this scripture? The stone which the builders rejected is become the head of the corner, right? And so these are all stories that these Yahudim, the Sadducees and Pharisees, the religious sects, they did not like this. They did not like this at all. This was Yahuwah's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. And they sought to lay hold on him, but feared the people, for they knew that he had spoken the parable against them. And they left him. and went their way. And they sinned unto him certain of the Parashim, right? More of the Pharisees and of the Herodians to catch him in the words. Now, this is crazy. This is one thing you do not want to do. Our Messiah is the utmost attorney of the Torah, right? And so they are trying to trick our Messiah, and you can't trick him, right? He's the most legal beagle there is when it comes to the Torah. Verse 14, and when they were come, they say unto him, Rabbi, right? And these guys are a bunch of trickery guys, right? We know that you are true and care for no man, for you regard not the person of men, but teach the way of Elohim in truth. So they give you a bunch of sugar, they give you a bunch of love, and then they try to catch you in a trap. Then they say, is this the trap or is this not? And the guy that we're talking about here is Caesar, right? And people know him as Caesar, but it's Caesar. And there's the question. Is it lawful to give tribute to Caesar or not? Shall we give or shall we not give? But he, knowing their hypocrisy, said unto them, why tempt ye me? Bring me a penny that I may see. Now, if he would have said, no, you don't have to give anything under Caesar, you to Caesar, you don't, that would have been, they would have killed him for that. Not the Pharisees, but the Caesar, right? They're basically in a captivity, and they're living in the land that is essentially not theirs. It was captive, and they're slaves in their own kind of lands. Shall we give or shall we not? But he, knowing their hypocrisy, said unto them, why tempt ye me? Bring me a penny that I may see it. And they brought it. And he said unto them, who is this image and superscription? And they said unto him, Caesar's. And Yahushua answering, said unto them, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to Elohim the things that are Elohim's. And they marveled at him, right? Instead of being able to trap our Messiah in this, he says basically, if whoever is the president of the land, if they have their inscription on the coins, give to them what is theirs, because this world is Satan's. It is not. Our Creator will come back and cling it, and our Messiah will run it. But right now, it's all under satanic control. Verse 18. Then come unto him now this is the guys. This is the Sadducees, the Sadducees, right? The Sadducees. Now, this is where people get into a lot of trouble because they believe that these people are the holy people. And so they believe that Christian religion has brainwashed everybody to believe that our Messiah came to battle people that were law keepers, right? Let's read about the Sadducees, a sect of the Yahudim at the time of Yahushua, who were usually at variance with the other leading sect, namely the Parashim. Okay, so you have two groups of religious fanatics. It is like the Mormons and the Lutheran going at it, right? This is they're both incorrect, right? And they don't have their doctrine right, but they are the leaders, right? They're the leaders of this thing. So they were at variance with each other, leading the sect, namely the Parashim, but united with them in opposing Yahushua and accomplishing his death. Luke 27 and Matthew 16, 1 through 12. The name would seem to be derived from an Ivrit. So this is a Hebrew word signifying the just. But here we go. But the Talmudists affirm that it comes from a certain Zodok. So you're talking about people, the Talmudists are people, you're going to hear the dogs, guys, I'm super sorry. The Talmudists are people that believe in the oral traditions of men. They believe in the oral Torah. They believe in a doctrine that is incorrect. And it is outside of the Torah. So if you are reading from the Talmud, that is Babylonian mysticism. That is the Kabbalah. That is all sorts of great evil stuff, and we shouldn't have that, right? And so this religious sect talks about where it's coming from. It's coming from the Talmudists. They can affirm that it comes from a certain Zadok or Sadducees, who was the founder of the sect and lived about 3 centuries before the coming of the Hamashiach. The Zodokim disregarded all traditions and unwritten laws, which the Parashim prized so highly, and professed to consider the Scriptures as the only source and rule of the Yahudic religion. They rejected the demonology of the Parashim, denied the existence of angels and spirits, considered the soul as dying with the body, and of course admitted no future state of rewards and punishments. Guys, this is completely 180 of the Torah, right here. They don't believe in angels and spirits. We know we know all the sorts that there's angels out there. We know that there's evil spirits and good spirits. And they say there's no heaven or hell, right? And so these people don't believe in the existence of an afterlife. And so you have to understand what these guys believe before you can understand how they're trying to trick our Messiah. Verse 18, then come unto him the Zadokim, which say there is no resurrection, and they ask him, saying, right? And so these people believe there is no resurrection. You die, you're done. That's the way it is. So this is a trick question. They go, Rabbi, Moses wrote unto us, if a man's brother die and leave his woman behind him and leave no children, that his brother should take his woman and raise up seed unto his brother. And this is the Torah, right? If you guys are living the Torah life, we are living as it was. If your brother dies, you would take his wife and you would raise up his family as well. So you would essentially have two families. You would have the family of your brother and you'd have your family. And so that is part of the Torah. And so that is true. Now there were seven, verse 20, there were seven brethren, and the first took a woman, and dying left no seed. And the second took her and died, neither left he any seed. And the third likewise. And the seven had her, and left no seed. Last of all, the woman died also. So this is their trick question. In the resurrection, therefore, when they shall rise, whose woman shall she be of them? For the seven had her as his woman. Now again, this is very dangerous to argue with our Messiah. And Yahushua answering said unto them, this is a slap across the face. Do ye not therefore err, because ye know not the Scriptures, neither the power of El. Now, can you imagine telling a man of the pulpit or a man of the cloth right in front of everybody that they don't know their Scriptures? That is a complete slap in the face. Verse 25, for when they shall rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels which are in heaven. Guys, huge things right here. You learn a tremendous amount of details from this. When we die, where do we go? What happens to us? We know we go into Sheol. We know we're in a holding containment unit, but this tells us something else as well. It tells us there are no marriages, right? The act that the angels did when they came down from the Shamayim and they mated with the human women, that was very evil. That should have never, ever happened, right? That's where they created the hybrids, the Nephilim, and all the men of renowned old, right? What are they? They're the Greek stories that they all have all around us, all this stuff. I believe a lot of that is completely real. So here he says, you don't know your words, because when you rise, you don't marry and there is no marriage. So guys, when we leave our spouses on this end, that is the end, right? It is literally till death do us part. Does that mean we'll never see each other? We don't know each other or any of that stuff? I don't believe so. I believe we will have I believe we'll have families. I believe we will know our people, and I think it'll be a joyous time. Verse 26, and as touching the dead, that they rise, have ye not read in the Sefer of Moshe, how in the thorn bush Elohim spoke unto him, saying, I am the Elohim of Abraham, and the Elohim of Yitzchak, and the Elohim of Yaakov. He is not the Elohim of the dead, but the Elohim of the living. And then he slaps him again. Ye therefore do greatly err. That was incredible. Very incredible what he says. And then we have another guy who's sitting there around that, and he goes, wow, verse 28, and one of the scribes came, and having heard them reasoning together, and perceiving that he had answered them well, asked him, which is the first commandment of all? And when you look at this in other translations, they either say what is the greatest commandment or what is the great commandment. And so I don't believe this is the first commandment, because the very first commandment we have is be fruitful and multiply. And then we got that one in the garden. And there's a lot of commandments before we ever make it to the answer to this. So this is, I believe, what is the greatest commandment. And this is a problem. This is a Christian conundrum right here. Because if the greatest commandment is this, verse 29, the first of all commandments is, if it's the first, if it's the greatest, if it's the great, it doesn't matter. Because this is why. Hear, O Yisrael. And you are Yisrael, my friends. So if this says, hear, O Yisrael, this is hear you. Hear my people. You are Yisrael if you keep the laws, statutes, and commands of our Creator and call upon the name of the Messiah. Here, Yahuwah Eloheinu, Yahuwah is one. And you shall love Yahuwah Eloheka with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is the first commandment. And it's the greatest commandment. It's not the first, but I mean that you got to go with the translations. That's why you got to be founded in this, so you guys can bounce back and forth and you don't pick up the wrong doctrine. So the greatest commandment, the first commandment, is that you love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Now, this is what I ask people all the time. How can you honestly look at yourself in the mirror and say you love God with all your heart, mind, and soul if you don't know his law, statutes, and commands? If you're so lazy that you don't care what the law, statutes, and commands are, and you're willing to be spoon-fed from a pulpit on the wrong day of the church, then you're going to end up in hell. That's just the way it is. Verse 31, and the second is like, namely this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is none other commandment greater than these. And that's what they've said. Various translations is like the whole of the Torah hangs up on these two commands. And the Christians right there will go, okay, well, we only have two commands. Okay, if that is the case, then you are absolutely not loving God with all your heart, mind, and soul when you do not know his laws, statutes, and commands. If you've run this entire existence of your life without sitting down one day and reading the Torah, which I urge you guys to all read over and over and over, it's important. Verse 32, and the scribe said unto him, well, Rabbi, you have said the truth, for there is one Elohim, and there is none other but he. And to love him with all the heart, and with all the understanding, and with all the soul, and with all the strength, and to love his neighbor as himself is more than all whole ascending smoke offerings and sacrifices. What in the world does that mean? It means that if we loved our Elohim with all our heart, mind, and soul, and our neighbor as ourselves, we wouldn't have to have sacrifices all the time. But we don't do that, right? We can't stand our neighbors. We can't stand people. We can't stand our brother. Our dad did something evil to us. Our mom did something evil to us. Our cousin did something evil to us. Our brothers, sisters, the whole works, right? And you will hold these grudges for all times. And so when you go to bed holding a grudge, you are not loving your neighbor with all your heart, mind, and soul. There's verse 34. And when Yahushua saw that he answered discreetly, he said unto him, you are not far from the kingdom of Elohim. And no man after that dared ask him any question. Guys, and so if you want to know how do we get to the Shamayim, this guy almost had it, right? This guy almost figured it out. How did he figure it out? He said that was true. He said it, and he was meek, right? He was standing amongst all these guys that were trying to trick him, and this is the black sheep out of the group that said, wow, you're right. And our Messiah says, you are not far from the kingdom of Elohim. What else are we missing? We're missing the faith in our Messiah, right? The faith in our Messiah. Verse 35. And Yahushua answered and said, while he taught in the temple, how say the scribes that Mashiach is the son of David? For David himself said by Ruach HaKodesh, Yahuwah said to my Adonai, sit on my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool. David therefore calls himself his Adonai. And whence is he then his son? And the common people heard him gladly. And he said unto them in his doctrine, beware of the scribes. These are the people that we're all talking about, right? Which love to go in long clothing and love salutations in the marketplaces and the chief seats in the synagogues and the utmost rooms at feasts, right? Who has the fancy places? Who has the good seats? These people are not what our Creator said. Our Creator is a humble Creator, right? These guys that are dressing up really nice and making themselves look good and praying in front of everybody, this is not what our Creator wants. He wants humble people. He wants people who will humble themselves and come to them. And the chief seats in the synagogues of the utmost rooms, which devour widows' houses, and for pretense make long prayers, these shall receive great damnation. And Yahushua sat against the treasury and beheld how the people cast money into the treasury, and how many that were rich cast in much. And there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mites, which make a farthing. And he said unto them, his Talmudian, and said unto them, amen, I say unto you, that this poor widow has cast more in than all they which have cast into the treasury. For all they did cast in of their abundance, but she of her want did cast in all that she had, even all her living. Guys, this entire chapter tells us so much about everything. It tells us about the evil people that were in those days, the religious leaders of those days. And you know what? It doesn't change today, because you may not have those people that are keeping the law, statutes, and commands of our God, and then other commands outside of it, because you have all these preachers today who do not keep the laws of God. They do not, and they don't even know it, right? Most Christians do not have a clue what the law, statutes, and commands of our Creator say. So if we are looking for a path and we're seeking this vineyard, and we've been given a vineyard, then we are expected to give our rewards into that. And whether our rewards are sacrifice or whether our rewards are sitting there screaming from the side of the wall that our Messiah lives and that his dad's words, laws, statutes, commands, and everything about him are real. They are for us today, and these are what we should be seeking. That is what we need to give back. Guys, if we're not opening our hearts, minds, and souls to everyone around us, and guys, this Torah life is rough. The Torah life, and I'm not saying it's rough from a keeping the Torah standpoint. I'm saying from an outcast perspective, because if you keep the laws, statutes, and commands of our Creator, there's nobody else around you that is doing this, right? And you are going to be the oddball out. You are going to be the guy wearing seats that looks weird. You're going to be the guy that takes the Saturday off when everybody else is out shopping and doing their stuff. You're the guy that's not there for Christmas. You're the guy that's not there for Thanksgiving. You're the guy that's not there for Easter. These are all pagan holidays, right? Our Creator, pagan holidays are an abomination to our Creator. Our Creator's not there with you during these. Look, if you want to give gifts and give all this stuff, you're giving that on your own regard. None of this has to do with our Creator. You can say it's in the name of our Messiah. You can say, oh, I'm giving gifts in the name of Jesus or this. You're not. You're not. Guys, time is very, very short. To be separated from the world, you need to make those moves that separate you from the world. If you smell like the world, look like the world, taste like the world, and you are the world, you're not going to make this kingdom. The kingdom is set apart for people that do not look like the world. And so as we celebrate this Shabbat, as we take this day off, and as we look to our Creator, as we rest our bodies, our souls, our hearts, our minds, as we get further into the word of our Creator, look at creation, folks. Who can create that? If you can create a clump of grapes by your own hand without it planting anything, and this is all by your own design, wow, you are amazing. But considering none of us can do this, and we can't create anything, all we can do is plant, we can bring vineyards up, but we didn't make creation. We didn't make humans, we didn't make animals, we didn't do any of this stuff. We are merely a created entity inside of our Creator's realm, and He loves us, He knows us, He's called upon us, He knows the amount of hairs on your head, and He's calling you to the Torah. He's calling to a lifestyle that you will be proud of, that He will be proud of you. When the lights are out, can you say you did the will of our Creator? If you just called upon the name of the Messiah and you lived your life in sin, you are absolutely not walking with our Creator. Guys, so please read your Bibles. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. That is the Torah. That is the Torah of our Creator. That is His words. Made flesh is our Messiah. Guys, give it a try. And I hope you guys have a wonderful Shabbat. I'm out.